Hey everyone, and welcome back to Sasquatch Theory. I appreciate everyone tuning in, and I hope you guys have been enjoying the videos. In this episode, I am interviewing a woman from the state of Tennessee. She has had some strange things take place around her property and has been on high alert to what could be lurking around the forest. These are the types of stories I enjoy hearing because you get to hear the bizarre behavior of the Sasquatch and the people's reaction to the activity. You would have to think, with how many sightings have been reported, there will obviously be more people who have experienced their presence without physically seeing them. These creatures, or as some refer to as the hairy people, do not want to be seen or found. So with that being said, I think when they travel through certain areas, they stop by certain properties, always on the lookout for an easy meal. As many people have concluded, they follow food sources, but sometimes they target certain appetites and they just can't resist themselves. Many people notice strange things taking place around their wooded properties and don't know what to make of it and never give it another thought. Then you have the people that know something is not right and look for answers. I believe Renee from Tennessee was very smart to notice this activity and not just brush it off like most people would do. If there was an 800-pound predator coming up to your property, you would probably want to know about it. Before we get into this next interview, I wanted to say I appreciate all the people who have supported Sasquatch Theory and believed in the channel from the start. Many people have left some really good comments about the topic and shared their knowledge and theories with the people. No matter if you believe these things are physical creatures or something else, most can agree these things do indeed exist. I wanted to ask my subscribers, how do you guys feel about me starting a membership channel? I have been wanting to do more with the channel lately and find new ways to present all my finds and videos. The videos on the membership channel will feature exclusive never before seen footage and new finds and secrets of how I go about my exploration. I have a ton of videos that have not made it to the channel, so this will be more like a vlog style first person view of my experiences. I will be doing constant posts of videos and photos of me exploring and trying to find as much evidence as possible. Anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments or by email and we can set something up for everyone. With all that being said, let's jump into this next story from the state of Tennessee. Hey Renee, welcome to Sasquatch Theory. I appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, not a problem. If you could, would you tell us your strange experiences you've had around your property?
All right. Well, um, I live in a pretty small town in out Middle East Tennessee. Um, Pretty far out. I'm at one of the highest peak areas in the state. Lots of hills, valleys, really everything that you can think of. Pretty is here. Um, I live on a dead end road in back behind my property. I have 2 acres that's fenced in, and directly behind at the edge is a wildlife management area. And when I've talked to people, some people said it was about 900 acres, but when I looked it up just to confirm, it's 2,000 acres of wildlife management area. I don't really have too many neighbors around me. I have a couple, but they stick to themselves. And there's somebody that goes hunting. Well, they used to go hunting, and then they have a little cabin, but that kind of dwindled out after these encounters started. So when I was a kid, I knew about Bigfoot, so it's not like I haven't known about him. It's just something random that happened. I've been interested in him, in the whole creature itself.
Mm-hmm.
As a kid, about 6 or 7, I had a dream that was about people were getting kidnapped, and I went to go find my family, and I went to this big cave, and there was like an entire city underneath the ground, and they had like these boards of computers, and there was a king and queen, and they had the really huge ones. They were like 8 or 9 foot, and they were like the slave drivers, and the people were building, making their cave deeper. And that stuck with me, and I will never forget that dream.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward to last year. It started about March of 2020. My buddy gave me some chickens, gave me about 16 chickens, and built me a coop. And so I put the coop on the edge of my property towards the fence line under some trees to make it shady. And I kept them inside for a couple of months, until it warmed up and they were big enough to handle their own. The chicken coop itself, it was really secure. I don't really like snakes, so I made sure that my buddy and my other friend stapled it up really good, made sure nothing could get in. The door was super tightly stuck together because it's kind of on an incline, so like it had its own leverage, so I didn't put a lock on it. But they were doing good for a while, and one morning I woke up to feed them, and whenever I went out there, every single one of my chickens were dead. Like, a few of them were missing, but they were all dead. And they were in kind of like a pile at the edge of the cage, like where it almost looked like they went together and huddled up, and something had killed them. But when I checked them out to see, what happened, the door was open, and they didn't really look like they were mauled or anything like that. And the carcasses that were gone, they were like completely gone. Like there was nothing, there was no foots or insides of them. There was just, they were disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried to look for them, but I couldn't find them anywhere. And the chickens, I don't know, they didn't have any puncture wounds or anything of that sort. They were just mangled in a way. So I didn't get no more chickens because I was like, well, that's weird. And I didn't want to lose any more. And I just kind of blew it off of like, well, I guess, some freak accident happened. So I also didn't hear any sounds. Like, you would think 16 chickens, you would hear some clucking and, you would hear something. And it
Right.
had so it didn't really make sense how, and I'm a light sleeper.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, why would they be killed and I wouldn't have known about it? So fast forward to later in the season, between like September and October, it was getting to be fall. And I had my windows closed at that point, but they're old. My house is 100 years old, so they're old windows. They're single pane. They're just not. They're not going to have. My house has cracks along the floor, like you can hear in my house what's going on. And I stayed up really late one night. I stay up late most nights because I really can't sleep but a few hours. And whenever I finally was going to go to bed, I was laying there trying to fall asleep, and my dog was starting to go back and forth to my doors, to the windows, and they're floor to ceiling windows. So they're, I don't have curtains because I just never did get them when I moved in. And I was falling asleep, and then all of a sudden I heard this giant roar. And it's one of the hardest. I've been trying to figure out how I can describe this, and I've told it to my mom and my dad, and it's just like the roar. I know what a bobcat sounds like. I know what coyotes sound like. I know what cougars sound like, even though we really ain't got many of those. I like animals, and I research animals. I just knew that this was not something normal. It was like so loud that it went through my windows, and it was close to the house. It had to have been because it sounded close. And my dog, she jumped up on top of me and laid on top of me during this roar. It was probably lasted about, I'd say it lasted about 10 seconds, which,
Oh, wow.
like, it was long, and it kind of went to different tones, but the only way I can even, there's a video on, I think it was the Missing 411, and about those guys in the 70s that took recordings. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
Yeah, I heard it.
And there was a recording that I watched on YouTube. I guess he was at this Bigfoot convention thing, and he showed the recordings, and the roar pretty much matched that one. And that's the only thing I could find anything close to an example. Well,
Yeah.
when I heard it, my whole entire body went numb, and it felt like time stopped. And my dog laid up on the bed for the rest of the night because she just did not want to go outside. And that was one of the most, I guess, hardcore evidence that something was out there that I didn't know about.
Mm-hmm.
So I stayed up and I waited to see if maybe I'd hear it again, but it was just one long roar. And I couldn't really go back to sleep because I wanted to see if I could record it. But when you're in those moments, you know, people say, why can't you ever get some sort of picture or noise? It's like you're not thinking about that kind of thing in the moment. And you think about it after it's done. And then, of course, you've missed that opportunity. You'd have to have your something up at every moment of your life in order to capture something like that.
Yeah, that's right.
So I didn't hear anything else. I got disturbed, and I told my family about it, and they just were like, well, that sounds crazy, you know, but there could be something out there. And I went with my boyfriend, and we went out into the woods because I wanted to see about if I've ever missed anything, you know, any kind of footprints or something like that. And there's a bunch of structures out in the woods, tree bends, a bunch of A's made out of sticks, which I haven't found the significance of those, but I've heard of other people finding them, but I don't really know what they mean.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of X's from trees that are just kind of pushed together, and none of them, you know, whenever something is naturally formed, if you've ever been in the woods for long enough, you know what it looks like when a tree is naturally made in a certain way, or if it was forced in that manner.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so like there's also these weird, like they're probably about 6 to 7 foot wide nest looking clusters. And they look like nests because there's different areas with these, and they're like indentions in the ground, and there's a bunch of leaves packed up into the holes, into the divots. And some of them have trees, like tree limbs and stuff, broken up and put inside of them, and some of them are empty. And so I'm like, well, this can't really be natural, because I look up, I look at the trees, I'm like, well, there really isn't nothing directly above this spot that could fall and be broken up. That don't make no sense either. I don't know what they are. I'm assuming that maybe that's where there's maybe a lot of them, and that's kind of like their little nest. That's the only thing I can think of.
Mm-hmm. Is this in the wildlife management area?
Yes. Yes. It is in the wildlife management area.
Yeah, I bet they're in there for sure.
For sure. It's not, nobody goes back there. I mean, no one goes deep in those woods. It's easy to get lost in. I have never been lost in the woods until I went back there. And I got lost for about 4 hours. And the only way I got out was because my phone, I had pulled up my GPS just so I could use the map, to get a direction. I didn't have any service, but it did show where I was and I could read, the map to get out.
Yeah.
Everything starts once I get into the wildlife management area. My neighbors that would go hunting, when I first moved in here, I've been here 3 years. When I first moved in, those people, they're kind of young, they're teenagers, early 20s. Whenever they would go there every single weekend and every single hunting season available, they would go back there and hunt and be up 2, 3, 4 a.m. in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Once I heard that roar and I started noticing more things, they haven't been back in over a year and a half since that started. And I don't know if maybe they've experienced something as well, but I just find it strange. I know life happens, but you don't just quit going to your property, especially if you hunt. You go back. They didn't sell it, so it's like, what happened? Well, nothing really happened for a while up until wintertime. I told my dad about it. He finally made it out here, and he gave me a trail cam and told me, set up this trail cam, see if you can capture anything. And he went out and laid out some deer meat in the trees to see if they would get taken. And when he went, it was going to be dark soon. I mean, it gets dark early in the winter. And he, on his way back from coming out of the woods, he looked behind him and noticed that there was a coyote coming. And he scared the coyote off when he shined the light on it. And then all of a sudden he heard coming out of my barn at the very back of my property, which is like an old 2-story tobacco barn. He heard something jump down from the barn and take about 3 steps towards the fence line, and then he didn't hear it anymore. Which it would take about, 15 steps to walk from the barn to the fence line to go towards the wildlife management area.
Mm-hmm.
It was cold, so I'm assuming that maybe it had like an old couch up on top that's been there and some tarps, just kind of random junk that was left from the old owners. So he suspected that was one of the Sasquatch maybe sleeping in my barn. I don't hunt or nothing, so I mean I don't mind hunting. I just personally don't. It's just my thing. So maybe they feel safe around me. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be.
And I don't really understand it. But when I go after that, I used to camp here. I used to go outside and go sleep without a tent. I just sleep in the summer. And before that happened, I wouldn't care to go out. But now, when I go in the woods, I go in and I physically say, hey, I'm coming in the woods. I don't want to bother you. I just want to check out. I want to check out some mushrooms. I want to look for some ginseng. I want to do nothing harmful to you. And when I leave the woods, I tell them I'm leaving, and don't mess with my stuff.
Yeah.
So that was like, I know I haven't seen them, but I do know that vocalization, the closest thing that I have found was that recording.
Mm-hmm. So you feel like They're around your property and hanging out in the management zone.
Yeah, I think they are.
And they
But
prefer to be around your property specifically.
yes,
Yeah.
because I think because I have plum trees, I'd make a garden. I feel like I gave them a food source with my chickens because nobody else has chickens around me.
Hmm.
And the only thing that could have opened that gate to the chicken coop was a person or something that knew how to open a gate to a chicken coop. I mean, a possum or raccoon couldn't have done it. They're not that strong. They're smart, but they're not that strong. Um, so that was something that had happened. Another thing that started happening not long after the incident with my dad and stuff was I have some sheds, and the sheds are, they're old, rinky dinky. They really don't close, but we keep our garden tools, axes, things like that. Um, Keep some knives out there. And one day, sometimes we left tools around the yard. Like if we just got done, we threw them, we'd leave them out there and then deal with it later, type of thing. And we were looking for this particular axe, and we could not find this axe anywhere. And my boyfriend came in the house. He was like, "Have you seen this axe?" I was like, "No." He's like, I had it up there on the table on the porch, and it's not there no more." I was like, "Well, I haven't taken it, Nope. I don't know what could have." And I was like, "Well, maybe something took it." And he's like, "Really?" I was like, so I went out there and I said, "Hey, you stop taking my stuff, come back with I won't, I don't bother y'all. Y'all come back and bring me my axe and stop taking my tools." And I went back inside, and a couple of days later, the axe was back on the table, right where it was.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
And so I was like, man. So then we were like, well, we're going to test something. So my boyfriend, we like to throw spears. We make spears out of sticks, We just make them out for fun. That's what we do. And we started throwing these spears into, there's a pond past my fence line. It's filled with some fish, just like little baby fish, bluegill, I guess, crappie, I don't know. And we threw the spears in the water because I wanted to see, if something was wanting tools, then it's going to get in there and get a spear maybe to catch some fish. Well, we threw them in there, stabbed them into the water, and a few days later, we checked it out, and some of the spears are missing. So I was like, well, that's crazy. Not long after that, my dad came back, and my boyfriend and my dad were going to go look in the woods, and they went on the road, which is a dead end. I mean, it's a dead end dirt road. It's not even huge, but it connects to the wildlife management area. And one of my boyfriend's knives he had made was in the middle of the road for no reason, and there was like some blood on it. And I was like, he's like, we don't just lose our knives. And the only thing I could think of, I was like, well, maybe some juvenile or something thought it was going to take a knife to use, and it cut its finger and got mad and threw it on the ground. It could have done that. I know it ain't no person. Nobody bothers us. I mean, we have dogs, and they don't bark at people coming.
Yeah.
So that was really weird. I mean, now I started hearing walking around my house at night, like leaves crunching. My dogs would be going crazy, barking out the windows. Just the trail cam when I put it up in different areas. So I was like, I need to see my mom was like, you need to see if it's a human. So I was like, okay, I'll look, but I don't really think it's a person. Never caught anything on the cameras. When we put that thing out there, it was a brand new trail cam, brand new batteries. When we would put it up, the next morning we'd check it out, and the batteries would be completely drained. Like there'd be no power in the batteries. I went through 2 packs of batteries in a matter of days trying to get something on this camera, and the batteries would just die every single night, which made no sense. I mean,
Yeah.
you're putting like 6 batteries in something, it should last overnight. It's a trail cam.
Mm.
But
Have you ever seen like any orbs or experienced any paranormal stuff out there?
I haven't seen any orbs. I did have strange things going on, just like strange happenings in my house, but I just figured that's because it's old, 100 years of history.
Mm-hmm.
But I never really noticed any when the events happened. I didn't really notice anything extra going on other than the batteries were draining out of the camera, which usually happens if something is able to absorb energies. And I think that they do absorb and can control energies in a way, if that makes any sense.
I agree.
They can suck, if they don't want to be seen, they can suck out, they can manipulate the frequencies and kind of hide themselves or do whatever they feel they need to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I never did catch anything on the trail cams, and I figured, well, I'm not going to keep buying batteries, so I just left it at that. And I haven't heard nothing in a long time, ever since early this year. It kind of stopped. But the only other thing I've noticed is when I first moved in here, I've been here 3 years. The first year, there was deer, a bunch of coyotes. You'd hear them at night hollering and doing their squeals, But ever since that started, I don't see many deer anymore, and I don't hear very many coyotes. Like, I don't hear the packs of them.
Yeah,
And,
I've noticed the same. Like the deer just kind of disappeared throughout
yeah,
like a span of 2 or 3 years around here, and there's like no coyotes, hardly any wildlife anymore. It's a strange thing. I don't understand.
I don't either. I mean, I understand things migrate, but at the same time, I mean, when I heard that roar, there was no sound outside other than that. Like, I'd hear crickets. Those start pretty early in the spring. At least here they do. I didn't hear no crickets or anything. And some nights I'd hear them, but then other
Yeah.
nights it would be so silent that it would be really, that brings me comfort to hear a cricket or something out, or a cicada, or little things. But they would be really silent, or I'd hear a weird bird sound that I knew there was no birds out, like not those kind of birds. So yeah, just heard strange sounds, and then it just kind of stopped. And now my neighbors still aren't back. They're still not hunting or anything anymore. So
Now, do you think that's because they just didn't see anything or see any sign of deer?
it could be it, but they also partied out there. They partied along with hunting. Like, they'd get drunk, ride their 4-wheelers and dirt bikes, and play out in the woods like young kids. But they don't even do that anymore. And the only thing I can think of is, maybe they experienced something themselves and got scared, because their cabin's closer to the, like, in the woods and close to the management line, because it's just a rope that separates it. I mean, it got a sign that says, you're entering wildlife management area. So I don't know if maybe they experienced something themselves and they got freaked out and stopped wanting to go, or what it could be. I don't talk to my neighbors, so I really don't. But
Okay.
that was my experience.
Do you want to see a Bigfoot?
I mean, it'd be interesting to do so, but at the same time, I'm okay not, I don't ruin. I know there's things out there that really and truly, they're a lot bigger than I am. I'm 5'1", and it'd be interesting to see one if it was nice, I guess. But and I'm sure the ones I have are, but I don't really care to go out there and search to see one. It's if it happens, then that means I was meant to see it. And if
Right.
it happened, then I guess I wasn't meant to.
It sounds like with everything you have going on, it's a big possibility that you might encounter one.
I might. I haven't been out in the woods in the summer. I haven't. I don't go out there as much because there's mosquitoes love me and ticks love me, and so I usually wait till fall once the snakes and everything kind of disappear. And at the time, I didn't even have glasses. I need glasses to see from a distance. I didn't have glasses, so when I'm walking through the woods at those times, I was pretty much blind. I mean, I could see him a few feet in front of me, but so I don't know. Maybe there was one following me in the woods, and when I go back out this fall, I'm going to try to get deeper in just because I want to see how far I can go. But I'm sure that if it's meant to be, they'll show themselves to me because I have no desire to hurt them, and I'm not going to try to hurt them because that's how you make an enemy with any kind of creature.
Yeah.
They can smell you and they remember who you are. So I prefer to be as nice and make them aware that I'm not going to hurt y'all. And
Yeah.
who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Just keep an eye out. And I want to say you're really lucky to live next to a conservation area. And I say that because that's kind of one of my dreams is to, I don't know, build a little place or buy some property that butts up to a big national forest or wildlife area. I think that'd be really cool.
It is cool. I mean, you know that nobody can build behind you. And when I moved here, I wanted somewhere secluded so that I didn't have to deal with a ton of people because I don't like town. I don't even like people that much.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
So it's like, it's pretty cool, but there's no telling what's actually being what's being conserved in those conservation areas.
Right. I've heard a
And
lot of Dogman stories from Tennessee. Does that not scare you a little bit? I'm not saying it is real, but
I have heard a lot of those. I am more concerned with uh, Dogman in the sense of that is definitely an apex predator. I don't think that they do anything, but I have heard about them, and they bother me. But I prefer not to try to entice those creatures to come into my areas, and they might be around. I mean, my boyfriend said that he's pretty sure he's seen one, which is down the road, down in a holler when he goes to work. It's 3 a.m., 4 a.m., and he said that he had seen something that either was a dogman or possibly a wendigo. I don't know if those exist, but
we need to get him on the show sometime.
yeah, yeah. I mean, my parents have experienced things as well in Arkansas. Pretty up close encounter. They didn't see it, but they were camping, and my mom never believed. She thought it was I was. She just thought I was crazy. People were being silly. But then she experienced something, and it was sniffing their tent, and she knew it wasn't a bear because she is obsessed with bears and their how they are. And she said it was breathing heavy and walking, and it didn't take any of their food, and it was sniffing my dad because he was snoring. I mean, they've had experiences, and then my boyfriend had an experience. He said that when he was out in the woods one day, he seen a white Neanderthal looking creature in the trees. kind of going from tree to tree. And I have heard the old Bigfoots, they can turn white, just like, when you get old, your hair turns colors. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I
Yeah.
don't go very much just because I don't really, I don't go back there and mess with anything. I just mind
And
my business.
what is back there? As far as the terrain, is there a waterway or a lake or power
Are
line strips?
a couple of ponds. There is a fresh spring that comes out of the ground, and then it continues on for miles. It's just a kind of a small creek, but
Mm-hmm.
it's super cold water. Um,
Does it have fish?
the pond does.
Mm-hmm.
One year or early this spring, the pond flooded, and a bunch of fish were taken out of the pond and thrown at the bottom of the little valley part. And I've saved a bunch of fish. I saved like 70 fish, but there were probably like 150. No joke. Little baby bluegill, maybe. I'm not a fish expert, but I went to go check on it the next day because it had kept raining, and there were no more fish at all. Like there was no more fish. So I don't know if a raccoon could eat that many fish at once, but I don't think maybe they can. I don't know how big their stomachs are, but I think possibly one of the Sasquatch took all the fish because it was easy to eat, And there is a waterfall. There's a few waterfalls. Once you get to a certain part, you either have to slide down the hill and hit trees to not kill yourself going down, or you have to rappel down. And once you get to that part, it's really thick, really thick. The water breaks off into different areas.
Mm-hmm.
There's some caves, not like super huge, ginormous caves that I found yet, but there are some smaller caves. So it
Okay.
gets so back there, you need a machete.
Yeah. Now going back to the beginning. Now, do you think this correlates with the dream that you had of the underground city and these beings being in there?
I think that it does. And I think it's kind of like some people are chosen to experience things because I don't know, like I feel like I've had a strange connection with them, even though I hadn't experienced them other than in my dream. But then whenever I got older, I mean, it still concerned me of like, there's things out there, and I knew. And I think that it maybe was like a beginning of possibly much greater things, kind of like a warning. And I don't know if it's like predestined that you're supposed to experience something, or if it's just based upon who you are, maybe your personality or whatnot. But
Do you think their realm is underground, but they're not necessarily traveling there physically, but they come in and out of our world
I
that
believe
way?
so.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Do you think they're evil, or do you think they're good?
I think it just depends. I think some of them, just like any other creature, there's good and there's bad ones, But in reality, you don't really hear much about it. I think they don't want you to get in their way. And I think they do go in and out of reality, but I also believe that if they're in this realm, perhaps they go to find cave sources, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe the caves, I mean, when you go in a cave, it seems like time is very strange in a cave. Maybe it's a portal. I really don't know. These are just my feelings of what makes sense and what doesn't. But I do believe that they're kind of they can fade in and out of existence in a way, if that is a good way to put it.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. Well, I guess that answers all of my questions that I have for now. And I think you're going to continue having activity just because of the description you gave me of the property and the surrounding area. But I hope that if you encounter more, you'll get in contact with me and let me know kind of what happens.
I will, and if I ever, see one and have that or hear anything, I'll let you know because I don't think it's done yet. I think they're just chilling out right now. And that's how I feel.
Yeah.
They're kind of doing their thing.
It's
So
going to take years for everything to unfold.
yeah, I'm only 25, so I got some years to go. We'll see.
Okay. Well, yeah, just be careful and keep an eye out, and we'll keep in contact.
All right, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you being on the show, Renee.
All right, thank you.
Yep. You have a good one.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
I think Renee did an awesome job at telling her strange experiences with the unknown, and I know it disturbed her enough to research everything and get in contact with me to tell her story. I believe in the middle of the night the Bigfoots will come out and be more bold. They do have their own goals and objectives, and I agree with Renee, they don't want us in their way. Again, you have story after story where a dog is able to know something is outside or around the area without physically seeing it. It does appear all animals have this ability, even if it is just their hearing. It is a lot more in tune than ours. I have heard story after story of Sasquatch taking people's chickens. We have also heard that at times they will take people's pets or even objects. I believe if the Bigfoot were from the Ice Age, they would have naturally hunted for things such as grouse, pheasants, and turkey. I believe they could have even hunted coyotes. When natural resources become low, they could identify these domestic animals and see them as a natural food source. I think it is cool Renee is observant and pays attention to detail. We also both openly discussed our strange theories of possibilities, as no one really knows what is going on. Renee, I really appreciated you contacting me and telling me about your experiences. You and many other people have helped me understand these creatures better, and I hope my channel has brought you insight or maybe some closure. I enjoyed having you as a guest, and I appreciate you seeing the need to tell your story and help other people along the way. Thank you as well for helping my channel out and believing in it. Anyways, that's all for this week, and I appreciate everyone tuning in. Until the next time, take care, everyone.